Hey there, fellow adult collectors. Welcome back. David Eon here with something else you may have never seen before. Fresh up from the museum, this is Durham's M.A.S.H action figures. And this is pretty much the whole collection. They only, to my knowledge, made 2 figures from this series. Durham produced these in about 1975. It says 1969 on the package, but that is the copyright to the film. M.A.S.H was a movie before it was a TV show. That's the original movie right there. And this was produced in 1970. So this film came out in 1970. The television show came out in 1972 and aired until 1983, 11 years. So the show lasted longer than the Korean War, which is the setting for the show. And what we have here, these are based on the television show. A lot of times people think these are based on the movie. They are not, because that is obviously Alan Alda. And in the movie, his character was played, that's Hawkeye, was played by Donald Sutherland. And that's obviously Loretta Swit, who in the film was played by Sally Kellerman as Hot Lips Houlihan. And Durham is one of the cheapest, cheesiest action figure producers of the 70s. This was straight up pure dollar store stuff. And these figures are in usually terrible condition, almost always loose, and very rudimentary. Now, this figure has 7 points of articulation. That's the shoulders, neck, knees, and hips, basically. And you can tell just from looking at this, and it is mixed media, by the way, because they're wearing the smocks and they have the caps, and just the accessories are different. He has a couple of golf clubs and she has a first aid kit, and I'll show close-ups of that here in a moment. Basically, they just gave them different heads. They have 2 different head molds on the same exact body. There is no difference, and you can tell really when you turn this sideways and you look at these gigantic meaty hands that Hot Lips Houlihan has. Or as Seinfeld would say, she has man hands. Yes, she certainly does have man hands, and these are most likely bodies from some other Durham figure. And there's her medical kit there in the side. Because Durham made karate fighters, soldiers, cowboys. Durham made a bunch of stuff, and they're all, honestly, there's the golf clubs, he has 2 of them in there, really crappy action figures. These are as cheesy as it gets, and very, very difficult to find on the card. Any Durham figure on the card is almost unheard of. Like I said, it was the dollar store prize. You went to Woolworths, you went to Family Dollar. Yes, Family Dollar existed in the 70s. And you picked up a cheap figure for $1 for some kid to shut him up. This is what they were going to get. Okay, that's what they got stuck with. Now on the back of these, it has a generic background. Just like the front is generic. It's identical for both figures. It doesn't even tell you who they are. It does not even name the figures anywhere on this card. On the back, just a rudimentary drawing. Same drawing on both with instructions, because most Durham figures had a push button function on their back, which was very popular, I guess, with their kung fu fighters, because you could make them do karate chops, right? So she can lift her first aid kit and he can lift his golf club, and they're both wearing a hat that is completely different from the hat that they have on in the package. These figures are about 9 inches tall, and it looks like it's been resealed. It has not. That's just how badly these have been sealed up, because Durham, because they were just cheaply done. Any figures, actually these are probably some of the best M.A.S.H figures I've ever seen on the card from Durham. This is about as good as it gets because the cards are very thin. Cereal box cardboard, as I've said before, and a very flimsy kind of a blister that's not always well attached. So this is about as good as it gets. But these figures are about 9 inches tall, and I'll give you a size comparison. Get the ruler out so that you can see. About 9 inches. And we'll even put Muhammad Ali in here for a size comparison. There's a 8-inch M.A.S.H. So if we line his foot up with that foot, you can see Loretta Swit's got about a good foot on him if she was a real person. It's kind of gigantic, towering over your average M.A.S.H. there. I used to watch this show. I hadn't seen the movie until I was much older, but I used to watch the show when I was a kid. And the show was, one of their big claims to fame was that the current Dalai Lama in the 70s, this was the only TV show he would watch. Said it was the only show worth watching on television at all was M.A.S.H. And it was a good show. It really was. And as much as I've ranked on these for being just cheesy action figures, I do really like these. Part of my nostalgic television / movie collection, if you will. And you can see even by with the paint application, leaves a lot to be desired on the pants and the legs. You can see it better on her, I think, because they really screwed up the paint on this one. If you look at the boot, you can see how the boot paint went all the way up onto the pants. They really didn't even try. It's like, make figures quick. And you may have thought that it was the other figures, because there are 3 3/4 inch figures. When I said I was going to look at M.A.S.H. figures today, you're like, where's those small ones? I thought they were small ones. There were small ones made in 1982 by TriStar. TriStar in 1982, trying to piggyback, get ready for it, Hasbro's G.I. Joe popularity. Because they are 3 3/4 inch, that is 1/18 scale, fully jointed action figures. And it was an extensive series, actually. And that was about a year before they went off the air, because they stopped making the show in 1983. In 1982, TriStar took a shot at it and made a ton of figures, vehicle and figure sets, and a huge elaborate play set that no one ever talks about. You know how sometimes these channels, they have a top 10 list, top 10 best play sets, action figure play sets from the 80s. M.A.S.H. set is never on it, and the M.A.S.H. set's one of the best ones. They really knocked it out. But I guess they figured, oh yeah, you know what? They're saying we can make them the same size and design as G.I. Joes, and maybe since it's military, your Hasbro G.I. Joe collectors will want the M.A.S.H. figures too, and then they can have like a pretend it's a G.I. Joe medical unit. Well, it didn't quite work out. the TriStar figures were not very popular, although they are very difficult to find in good condition on the card now. The M.A.S.H. figures are probably harder to find than the G.I. Joes, but they don't go for as much for the obvious reasons. Does anybody remember these, or any action figures from Durham Industries? Durham has one of the most famous bootlegs. If there's a top 10 list for bootleg figures, they did make a bootleg of Kwai Chan Caine from the TV show Kung Fu and got in trouble for it. Young Kwai Chan Caine. That figure is infamous. You just can't find it. Does anybody remember Durham at all? They made a lot more than action figures, and it's all cheap stuff. It's all real cheap dollar store kind of stuff. Does anybody remember these? Tell me about it in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. Like I said, it's almost impossible to find these on a perfect card. I don't think I've ever seen these on a perfect card. They're always a little beat up. a little bit beat up, and that's acceptable considering that it's from like 75. I can tolerate that. I'm probably not going to find these on better cards. And it does tie in with that television nostalgia, which I do appreciate a lot. And I'm happy to have these in my collection, even though I did kind of bust on Durham a little bit. But it is what it is. I mean, they made cheap figures. That's just the truth. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you remember these at all? Did you have these? I can't see little kids playing with these figures. I just can't. Mommy, I really want Hawkeye. Okay. I just don't see that conversation taking place, but what do I know? Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you got something out of it. I hope that you did. Share it if you can. Subscribe if you knew, all of that jazz. Check out some of our other content. We do a lot of different nostalgia related things on this channel. Mostly action figure and toy related, modern and vintage. We're all about the nostalgia here, folks. So check us out. And find us on Instagram, Open by Chance on Instagram. Did you see the film? I know most people know about the show, but a lot of people don't realize it was a movie first. With a theme song. The theme music to the TV show is from the movie, but in the movie it had lyrics. Bet you didn't know that. Unless you saw the film, and then you were like, that has lyrics? Anyway, that'll be enough for today, and watch out for more vintage showcases in the near future.